Can't just sit and read a book here. I've got to do it with a cat on my shoulder. You are so cute. You're my baby. Am I in your way? Am I on the part of the bed that you wanted? Yeah. So when I heard that The Nightmare Before Christmas was going to get a sequel, obviously my brain went two completely different directions. The first one was, oh, this is amazing, this franchise that I really like and that only has one movie of it is getting a sequel. How cool is that? The complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is this a good idea? Sequels sometimes are just a terrible idea and should never be done. So we got two sequels, one in manga form, one in YA novel form, and that's what I'm talking about in this video. So I'm gonna start with the novel because this is the one that I got hold of first. So this is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Ernshaw, and it's a YA novel entirely dedicated to Sally's character, straight after her and Jack's wedding. Which is kind of sweet because, you know, we all have these fan arts all over the internet of Sally in her wedding dress and what she would look like. And the focus of this story is that Sally went from being a nobody, like she was a literal slave for Professor Finkelstein, and now she is the wife of the Pumpkin King. So she's suddenly gone from being bottom of the pile to being at the very top. And this brings out a lot of her personal insecurities about how she doesn't feel like she deserves all this attention, that she's just a nobody, that she's happy to be with Jack, but she doesn't want to be in the public eye, she doesn't want to be answering questions about what she's wearing and what she's doing today. And this causes her a lot of anxiety. And personally, it's something I found really relatable because having spent most of my life feeling like I'm a complete piece of shit that doesn't deserve anything, I think a lot of people feel that way. So most of the novel is dedicated to her getting over this and learning that she can be a hero in her own right, because that's what she ends up doing. She ends up going back into the forest where the doors are and finding a new door that was kind of hidden away under a bunch of brambles, and she opens it. I want to say all hell breaks loose, but all hell is kind of what Halloween Town already is. So instead of that, what she does is she unleashes this creature that sends everybody to sleep, and it does this in Halloween Town, in Christmas Town, in Thanksgiving Town, in all the other towns. It goes through all the doors. It even goes into the real world where it puts everyone to sleep, including Queen Elizabeth II. And Sally, for some reason, is the only one left awake, and therefore the only one who can deal with this monster, and she's absolutely not prepared for this, so she has to learn that she is capable of doing things on her own. And it's a beautiful story of self-discovery, which I actually really liked and really enjoyed. We find a lot more out about Sally. We also see what goes on in like the other doors, especially Valentine's Town, because that's where Jack and Sally go for their honeymoon, and she learns more about herself and her origins and where she came from, because it turns out Dr. Finkelstein wasn't entirely straightforward with her or with anybody else. So I really enjoyed this book on a personal level. I thought the whole exploration of Sally's character was really like a really good idea. But I did find her writing style rather annoying, because there's really not any paragraph that goes by without her reminding us in some way about Sally's stitches, about her stuffing, about how she's falling apart at the seams and this and that. And a lot of it is like she works this in literally and also metaphorically, and it does get really annoying. Like, there is a moment where you want to say, we get it, she's a rag doll, we know. You don't need to keep reminding us every 5 seconds, we know. And there is also a lot of her going on about how incapable she is and insignificant she is. And like, on one hand I get it, because like that is genuinely how you feel. Like, you have this kind of voice in your head that is ramming itself against the inside of your skull and that keeps saying, you're a piece of shit, you can't do this, you're worthless, don't even bother, don't try. So I get that this is something that could get overpowering, especially in a situation like this where there is a lot of room for panic because everybody's asleep and she can't wake them up and she doesn't know what to do and she has to figure it out on her own. But we know, like, from the Nightmare Before Christmas movie that she is pretty resourceful, so yeah, like, of course she can do this. And as a reader, that also gets kind of annoying, because it's like, we know how resourceful you are, Sally. Just come on. You want to kind of shake her and say, come on, we know you can do this. We believe in you. I want to talk about just the last, like, one of the last sections in this novel when Jack finds out that Dr. Finkelstein has been lying about Sally and her origins. He ends up kicking him out and, like, putting him in exile. And I thought it was a really odd thing to do because, like, you're mad because he lied about where she came from. But the original version was he created her out of nothing to be his slave. And once she leaves him, he creates another one to be, like, his wife. So it's a bit weird. And that's okay, like, you can do that, that's fine, but lying about, oh, actually, no, I didn't make her to be my slave, a sentient being with feelings and emotions to be my literal slave and do my bidding, but I actually got her from another place. Like, I don't understand why one of those things is okay, but not the other one. That was a bit strange to me. But on the whole, it's quite a short read. Like, it's really not very long. It's a It's a YA novel, and I thought it was pretty cute. Like, I like seeing, having a story that is dedicated to Sally, and getting to know what's going on inside her head, and because I really love Sally. And yeah, so overall, I would recommend this. I think it's a really cute read if you, like, enjoy Sally's character and her resourcefulness and want to know what it's like after, like, she actually does marry Jack, even though we don't actually get to see a lot of Jack in this story. It's mostly her, but yeah. Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Ernshaw. And then we have the manga duology Zero's Journey by DJ Milky and Kei Ishiyama, and this does pretty much what it says on the cover. It's all about Zero and how he becomes lost in Christmas Town. He becomes isolated from Halloween Town and gets lost. And Jack is obviously super upset about this. He feels really sad and tries to find a way of getting him back. So he sends Lock, Shock and Barrel to go and get him back because they have done his bidding so well in the past. Yeah. Now, these manga are beautiful. Like, I will say that for them. They are brilliantly illustrated, and all the dialogue is in rhyme. So I guess the writers did this to reference to the movie, which is obviously a musical, but it doesn't, like, I thought it was a bit strange from time to time, but I guess, like, you know, the elves that, like, sing as they work, it would make sense that they would, like, sing in rhyme, so maybe it's not that weird. I don't really know, but there were moments where I was like, okay, really? Okay, the story in itself, though, is not that interesting, to be honest. I found, like, I read them once, and then preparing for this video, I had to, like, read them again a second time to remind myself of what happens in them, because it really just left no effect on me whatsoever, like, nothing. The only thing that I really did take from this is there's, like, several scenes that are a bit weird and disturbing, and, like, not really what you would expect from Christmas Town, because Zero gets the shit beaten out of him by a gingerbread cookie. Like, really angry gingerbread cookie. It's very strange.
It reminded me of that scene in A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher, where Mona sets a batch of really violent, really angry gingerbread men on the enemy's camp to just wreak havoc. And as far as we know, it's really effective, even though we never really find out what they do, which is kind of annoying to me. I don't know what it is about gingerbread men being insanely violent that is so pleasing, but in this, like, normally so pleasing at least, but in this book I thought it was really disturbing. Like, it's weird. Poor Zero.
There's this whole section with an elf who's, again, just really violent and angry. It turns out that his dog died, and, like, Zero manages to sort of, like, give him a vision of his dog and kind of remind him how happy he was with the dog, to, like, be able to relive those moments, but also, and it kind of heals him in some way, even though he kind of has to go back to a world where he no longer has his dog. Like, it's very superficial, but I get it. I guess it's like a good way of reminding everyone that, like, not everyone enjoys Christmas. Like, Christmas is not a jolly time for everyone, because, you know, it's supposed to, like, focus on friends and family, but, like, there are those who have fallen out with family members and who can't, like, get back in touch or whatever, so it can be hard for that. You know, there are those who just don't have families for whatever reason, so they'll spend Christmas on their own because all their friends are with their families and they can't be with their friends. So, like, and it does get very dark for, like, there's a lot of depression going on, there's a lot of dark things going on. So I guess it was interesting how I remind people, like, Christmas, not that jolly for the entire world. The elves factory, like, where they work and make the toys, because, like, Lock, Shock and Barrel end up going into the factory and they're just having the time of their lives because there's toys everywhere. There's elves they can mess with. They can have a lot of fun. But then the foreman comes out, and the foreman is the most horrendous character who is just pure evil. It's very strange, because, like, the characters we get in Christmas Town, they're not evil at all. They're monsters, but they're not really evil. They're kind of just fulfilling their lives, basically. They're kind of scary to look at, but not really to, when they start talking and when they start just being, they are monsters that actually exist. But to have, like, a real monster in Christmas Town who's, like, screaming at the elves because they're lazy and they don't work fast enough, and he's really, like, degrading to them, and then he ends up, like, starting this song which essentially brainwashes them, and it brainwashes Lock, Shock and Barrel, so they start working with the elves as well. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying and really dark. And Zero ends up, like, going to try and get Santa Claus, or Sandy Claus, to, like, do something about this, and he doesn't. And, like, this is completely normal, apparently, in Christmas Town. Like, turns out the elves are actual slaves, and they are brainwashed into making toys for the children, and nothing is ever done about this, just to make Christmas depressing for absolutely everyone. When Santa Claus actually finds Lock, Shock and Barrel, he's like, oh, I remember your bad children. And then he's like, you don't know the difference between good and evil, do you? And they're like, no, we don't. But he's like, oh, never mind, I'm gonna teach you. And then he doesn't. I guess teaching Lock, Shock and Barrel the difference between good and evil would kind of kick their characters' purposes in the face. But sure, I just thought that was weird. And another thing, and I know this is kind of stupid, but, like, these are the kind of tiny little petty things that I get hung up on. There needs to be some kind of law, I guess, or explanation, or somebody give a definitive rule about what Zero actually is. Like, is he a physical being or a non-physical being? Because technically he's a ghost. Or can he change between the two? Because it's never really established. And, like, we know he can grab physical things in the movie, so technically he does have some kind of physical presence. But there's, like, a moment at the beginning of Shea Ernshaw's novel where Sally says, oh, well, she's trying to stroke Zero, but she can't because he's a ghost dog, so her hand just, like, goes straight through him. But then later on, she's, like, talking about how the texture of his fur feels under her fingers. Like, what? So is he physical or is he not? And in this book, there are moments where he can pass through like doors and walls and stuff, but there's also moments like he can clearly grab things, like he puts out a fire by grabbing a fire hose. So like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe this is just me being pernickety, but like, please somebody explain it. So he seems to like flip between physical and non-physical depending on what the plot demands. Sure. But overall, these manga, I mean, I don't know, they're incredibly quick to read, because like a lot of them, there's not even any dialogue in it. It's just like showing Zero going from one place to another or doing stuff. So like Zero doesn't talk, so there's not a lot of dialogue. So it's pretty quick to get through. And like I say, the images, like the illustrations are so beautiful. But the actual plot itself is literally zero. Which is sad, because like there could have been potential in this. But like there are like surface level stuff. It's like we're introducing problems that don't get resolved. And yeah, so Zero gets lost and then he's found and there's Christmas Town. And turns out it's not the happy smiley place that it's pretending to be, which is a very depressing thought. But honestly, I wish I hadn't read this, because like it's so dark what happens in Christmas Town, and that's not what it's supposed to be like. So yeah, I don't recommend these at all. Like, I'm a fan of the art, but not the rest of it, sorry. So that's it for this quick video about the Nightmare Before Christmas sequels, one of which I enjoyed, the other one I wish I had never laid my eyes on. Tell me what you thought if you read these books. Did you enjoy them? Did you hate them? Tell me everything in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to love, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Mwah!